In Harry Potter, some of the most dangerous magic does not arrive as a spell flying across a room. Sometimes it sits quietly on a shelf. That is what makes cursed objects so disturbing in the wizarding world. A cursed object works differently. It can wait inside a shop window, inside a school bag, inside a family home, inside a vault, or inside a room full of abandoned things. The danger is not always in the object's appearance. It is in what someone placed inside it. The wizarding world is full of enchanted objects that are useful, clever, or even beautiful. But cursed objects are the darker version of that same magical idea. They prove that magic can be stored, delayed, disguised, and transferred. A curse does not need the caster to be standing nearby. It does not need the victim to know the history of the thing they are touching. It only needs contact, curiosity, trust, or one wrong moment. And the lore behind these objects goes deeper than simple danger. In this ranking, we will cover not just which cursed object caused the most obvious harm. It is about what each object reveals. Because in Harry Potter, cursed objects are frightening for one specific reason. They make evil patient, the Hand of Glory. Harry's first real look at dark object culture does not happen at Hogwarts. It happens because he says one word wrong. In Chamber of Secrets, Harry tries to travel to Diagon Alley through the Floo network, but instead of landing where he is supposed to, he mispronounces the destination and ends up in Borgin and Burke's, a shop in Nocturne Alley. That accident gives him a view of the wizarding world most students never see directly. Shelves full of objects that are not just strange, but deliberately sinister. Among them is the Hand of Glory. It is described as a withered hand, displayed in the shop like something between a relic and a tool. When Draco Malfoy notices it, Mr. Borgin explains what it does. If a candle is placed inside it, the hand gives light only to the person holding it. Borgin calls it the best friend of thieves and plunderers, which tells you exactly what kind of magic this is. The Hand of Glory is built around unfair sight. That may sound small compared to objects that possess people or nearly kill them, but its function is extremely specific. It gives one person the ability to see while everyone else remains blind. It does not create light for a room. It creates private light. That makes it an object designed for burglary, ambush, escape, and secret movement. It is not defensive magic in the normal sense. It is magic for someone who wants to control the conditions of a crime. Draco's interest in it is important because it appears years before he becomes directly involved in a Death Eater mission. In his second year, Draco is still mostly posturing under Lucius Malfoy's influence. He is cruel, spoiled, and already fascinated by the darker side of wizarding status, but he is not yet the desperate 16-year-old trying to complete Voldemort's assignment. Still, the object catches his attention. He wants it. Lucius refuses, not because the hand is morally wrong, but because he does not want Draco to look like a common thief. That reaction says something about the Malfoys, too. Lucius is in the same shop trying to get rid of items that could cause trouble if the Ministry searches Malfoy Manor. So the issue is not that the family avoids dark objects. The issue is appearance, timing, and legal risk. The Hand of Glory exists in the same social world as hidden heirlooms, cursed antiques, and pure-blood families who know exactly which objects should not be seen during inspections. Then, Half-Blood Prince shows why Draco remembered it. During the Death Eater infiltration of Hogwarts, Draco uses Peruvian instant darkness powder to plunge part of the school into unnatural darkness. That powder comes from Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, which is ironic because Fred and George invented as joke shop magic. Draco pairs that darkness with the Hand of Glory, allowing himself to see while others are blinded. That is the hand's real place in the lore. It is not the object that kills Dumbledore, nor is it the object that brings Death Eaters into Hogwarts. But it helps create the conditions that make the attack easier. It turns confusion into cover, darkness into an advantage, and it lets the person carrying it move through a scene where everyone else has lost control of the space around them. That design makes the object feel like it belongs to the oldest, ugliest kind of dark magic, the kind that turns parts of the body into equipment. Even before the story explains how Draco will use it, the Hand of Glory already feels like something that should have been buried, not priced for sale in a shop. It is not the most destructive cursed object in Harry Potter, but it is one of the clearest examples of dark magic designed for intent rather than spectacle. The Vanishing Cabinet. The Vanishing Cabinet is one of those objects that becomes more disturbing the longer you realize it was sitting inside Hogwarts. For years, it is treated like background clutter. It is just an old cabinet, one of many strange magical objects inside a castle already filled with secret rooms, forgotten passages, and things nobody seems to catalog properly. But its actual function is extremely dangerous. A vanishing cabinet works as part of a pair. When both cabinets are intact, someone can enter one and come out through the other. That makes it a transportation object, but not in the public regulated way of Floo powder, port keys, or apparition. It is private and hidden. It creates a doorway that does not have to pass through the usual defenses around a location. The cabinet's importance begins quietly in Chamber of Secrets. Nearly headless Nick persuades Peeves to cause a distraction so Harry can avoid trouble with Filch. Peeves drops a vanishing cabinet over Filch's office, damaging it. At the time, it reads like a chaotic Peeves moment. A piece of magical furniture gets smashed, Filch is furious, and the plot moves on. But later, that broken cabinet becomes one of the most consequential objects in the entire school. The key incident happens in Order of the Phoenix, when Fred and George Weasley shove Graham Montague, a Slytherin and member of Umbridge's inquisitorial squad, into the damaged cabinet. Montague does not simply vanish to the other side. Because the cabinet is broken, he gets trapped between spaces. He can hear activity at Hogwarts and also hear activity from the matching cabinet's location. That is a deeply unsettling piece of magical mechanics. When damaged, it can suspend a person in a kind of in-between state, cut off from normal space. Montague eventually escapes by apparating, even though he has not passed his apparition test, and the experience leaves him badly shaken. He spends time in the hospital wing and later tells Draco Malfoy what happened. Draco realizes what Montague's experience means. The paired cabinet still has a connection to another location. If the Hogwarts cabinet can be repaired, it can become an unguarded route into the castle. This is why Draco spends so much of Half-Blood Prince using the Room of Requirement. He is not hiding a diary or practicing one simple spell. He is working on a long technical repair project inside a room that gives him the privacy and tools he needs. That detail makes Draco's sixth-year mission more interesting and more disturbing. He is not a natural assassin. His attempts with the cursed necklace and poisoned mead are clumsy, indirect, and nearly kill the wrong people. But the Vanishing Cabinet plan is different. It requires patience. He has to understand what the object is, repair the magical connection, test whether things can pass through, and keep the entire project hidden from teachers and students. The Room of Requirement makes that possible. The cabinet is hidden among generations of abandoned objects, broken furniture, old books, banned items, forgotten experiments, and things students wanted concealed. That room is almost like Hogwarts' unconscious mind. Everything lost, hidden, or unwanted ends up there. Draco uses that chaos as cover and the cabinet becomes one more forgotten thing inside a room full of forgotten things. But once it works, the consequences are immediate. Death Eaters enter Hogwarts through the repaired cabinet during the night of Dumbledore's death. The castle's external protections, gates, and normal security do not matter because the attack comes from inside. The vanishing cabinet moves enemies through space. And its most disturbing feature is that it proves Hogwarts can be compromised from within by something the school already contains. For years, the cabinet was just damaged furniture. Then, one night, it becomes the doorway that lets the war enter the castle. The Blood Quill. A normal quill records what a student writes, but Umbridge's quill records the punishment on the student. Dolores Umbridge uses the Blood Quill during Harry's 5th year at Hogwarts, in Order of the Phoenix. At that point, Harry has returned from the Little Hangleton graveyard after seeing Voldemort come back and Cedric Diggory die. But the Ministry, led by Cornelius Fudge, refuses to accept that Voldemort has returned. Umbridge is sent to Hogwarts as defense against the dark arts professor, but her real function is control. She is there to suppress Dumbledore, silence Harry, and turn the school into an extension of Ministry denial. The Blood Quill fits that mission perfectly. When Harry receives detention, Umbridge orders him to write the sentence, "I must not tell lies." The quill has no ink bottle because it does not need one. Every word Harry writes appears on the parchment, but the same words are carved into the back of his hand. The quill uses his own blood as ink. As the line repeats, the wound opens again and again, then heals over, leaving the words cut deeper each time. The curse is not only physical, it is ideological. Harry is being punished for telling the truth. He says Voldemort is back, and Umbridge forces him to write the opposite into his own skin. That is what separates the Blood Quill from a random dark object. The pain is tied to a message. The injury is used to make the victim participate in the lie. Umbridge does not simply hurt Harry because she dislikes him. She uses the object to make his body carry the Ministry's version of events. The detentions happen inside Umbridge's office, surrounded by pink decorations, lace, and decorative plates with kittens. She can sit across from a student and speak in a sweet voice while a cursed quill cuts him open. Harry also hides the punishment at first. He does not immediately report it to McGonagall or Dumbledore. Part of that is pride, part of it is anger, and part of it is the way Umbridge isolates him. The Blood Quill works best in private. It leaves a mark, but the act itself happens behind a closed office door, under the authority of a teacher backed by the Ministry, and Harry is not the only victim. Lee Jordan is also punished with the Blood Quill. It proves this is not one extreme moment where Umbridge loses control. It is a method. She uses the quill as part of her disciplinary system, the same way she uses educational decrees, inspections, bans, and the inquisitorial squad. The quill is not separate from her politics. It is the physical version of them. The Blood Quill does not kill Harry, but it leaves him a scar that proves a school punishment became a Ministry-approved wound. The Cursed Opal Necklace. The opal necklace is already dangerous before Draco Malfoy ever uses it. Harry first sees it in Borgin and Burke's during Chamber of Secrets, when he accidentally lands in Nocturne Alley through the Floo network. The necklace is displayed in the shop with a warning that says it has killed 19 Muggles, and Borgin and Burke's still has it for sale. It is a lethal cursed object with enough history that the shop can advertise its danger almost like a feature. The curse is already part of its value in Nocturne Alley. The necklace returns in Half-Blood Prince during Draco's mission to assassinate Albus Dumbledore. Voldemort has ordered Draco to kill Dumbledore after Lucius Malfoy's failure at the Department of Mysteries, and Draco turns to indirect methods because he cannot simply overpower the headmaster. And the opal necklace becomes one of his first major attempts. Draco does not hand the necklace to Dumbledore himself. He uses Madame Rosmerta, the owner of the 3 broomsticks in Hogsmeade, who has been placed under the Imperius Curse. Rosmerta is then used to pass the cursed package to Katie Bell, a Gryffindor student and chaser on the Quidditch team. Katie is supposed to carry it back to Hogwarts and deliver it to Dumbledore. That means the necklace moves through at least 3 layers before reaching its intended target. Draco, Rosmerta, Katie, then Dumbledore. Katie Bell is not the target. She is a carrier. She is a student used as a delivery method in an assassination attempt. The attack happens during a Hogsmeade visit in October of Harry's 6th year. Katie and her friend Leanne are arguing over the package when Katie touches the necklace through a small tear in the wrapping. That tiny tear matters because it shows how little contact the curse needs. The effect is immediate. Katie rises into the air, screams, and is badly cursed. Harry, Ron, and Hermione witness the scene after leaving the 3 broomsticks. Hagrid helps carry Katie back toward the castle, and she is eventually taken to St. Mungo's Hospital for magical maladies and injuries. She survives, but she is absent from Hogwarts for months. That detail separates the opal necklace from ordinary school injuries. Katie requires treatment at St. Mungo's, the same hospital used for serious magical damage. The necklace also exposes how easily cursed objects can bypass ordinary school safety. Dumbledore is one of the most protected wizards alive. Hogwarts itself has staff, wards, rules, and controlled access. But the necklace never needs to defeat Dumbledore directly. It only needs to enter the chain of student life. Hogsmeade weekend, trusted pub owner, wrapped package, student carrier, school return. Draco's plan fails because Katie touches the necklace before it reaches Dumbledore, but the failure still nearly kills her. That makes the object more horrifying, not less. The curse has no concern for the intended victim. The necklace was already connected to 19 Muggle deaths before Harry ever saw it in Borgin and Berks. By Half-Blood Prince, it nearly adds a Hogwarts student to that history. Hufflepuff's Cup. Hufflepuff's Cup did not begin as a dark object. Before Voldemort ever touched it, the cup was one of the few known surviving relics connected to a Hogwarts founder. It belonged to Helga Hufflepuff, one of the 4 founders of the school, and it carried the symbol of her house, the badger. It is described as a small golden cup with 2 handles, and Hepzibah Smith claims it had magical powers, though she admits she had never tested them properly. Helga Hufflepuff was associated with fairness, loyalty, hard work, and a willingness to teach students regardless of background. In the Sorting Hat's account of the founders, Hufflepuff is the one who says she will teach the lot and treat them just the same. So when Voldemort chooses her cup as a Horcrux, he is not just hiding part of his soul inside a valuable antique. He is corrupting a relic tied to one of the least elitist founders of Hogwarts. Then, the cup reaches Tom Riddle through Hepzibah Smith. Hepzibah is an elderly, wealthy collector descended from Helga Hufflepuff. By the time Riddle meets her, he is working at Borgin and Berks, using charm and good looks to gain access to old magical families and the treasures they keep. Hepzibah is proud of her collection and eager to impress him. She shows him 2 objects that matter deeply to Voldemort's future: Hufflepuff's cup and Salazar Slytherin's locket. That scene reveals one of Riddle's most important patterns. He does not simply want power, he wants objects with history. The cup is useful because it connects him to Hogwarts, to founder mythology, and to the kind of magical legacy he believes should belong to him. Riddle is already thinking like someone who wants his soul hidden inside symbols, not ordinary containers. Hepzibah dies soon afterward. Her house elf, Hoki, is blamed because her memory is altered to make it seem as if she accidentally poisoned her mistress. But Dumbledore later understands what happened. Riddle murdered Hepzibah, stole the cup and the locket, and covered the crime by manipulating the memory of a house elf who had no power to defend herself properly. That is the first real curse in the cup's history under Voldemort. Not the Horcrux magic itself, but the way he obtains it: murder, theft, and the framing of a servant. After that, the cup becomes one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. That means an object originally tied to Hufflepuff's inclusive legacy now contains a fragment of a soul split by murder. The transformation is more than physical, as it changes what the cup represents. A Founder's relic becomes a container for Voldemort's refusal to die. The hiding place is just as revealing. Voldemort entrusts the cup to Bellatrix Lestrange, one of his most loyal followers, and it is locked inside her vault at Gringotts. That is a very different kind of protection from the diary or the locket. The cup is guarded by wealth, blood status, goblin banking security, and Bellatrix's reputation. Voldemort hides a piece of himself inside the vault of a pure-blood fanatic, surrounded by treasure and protected by one of the most secure institutions in magical Britain. The Gringotts break-in in Deathly Hallows shows how difficult that protection is to bypass. Harry, Ron, and Hermione use Polyjuice Potion to disguise Hermione as Bellatrix. They enter Gringotts with Griphook, and the deeper they go, the more dangerous the vault becomes. Bellatrix's vault contains the Gemino curse and the Flagrante curse, causing objects to multiply and burn when touched. Treasure becomes a trap. Gold, armor, cups, and objects duplicate until the vault itself starts burying them alive. That is where Hufflepuff's cup is found. The cup is not displayed like a sacred relic. It is hidden among cursed wealth, almost swallowed by Bellatrix's hoard. Harry recognizes it because he knows what he is looking for. Hermione eventually destroys the cup in the Chamber of Secrets using a basilisk fang. That destruction matters for two reasons. First, basilisk venom is one of the few substances powerful enough to destroy a Horcrux. Second, Hermione is the one who does it. A Muggle-born witch destroys the corrupted relic of Helga Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff's cup begins as a symbol of one founder's generosity, passes through collector pride and family inheritance, gets stolen through murder, becomes a Horcrux, and ends up buried in a vault owned by Bellatrix Lestrange. Ravenclaw's Diadem. Ravenclaw's diadem is one of the rare cursed objects in Harry Potter where the tragedy begins long before Voldemort finds it. The object itself belonged to Rowena Ravenclaw, one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts. It was said to make the wearer wiser, and the inscription connected to Ravenclaw's house is one of the most important lines in the lore. Wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure. So before it becomes a Horcrux, the diadem represents intelligence, learning, and the founder most associated with the pursuit of knowledge. But the first curse attached to it is not magical. It is betrayal. Rowena's daughter, Helena Ravenclaw, stole the diadem from her mother. The reason is extremely important. Helena wanted to make herself cleverer and more important than Rowena. Helena fled with the diadem and hid it in a hollow tree in Albania. Rowena, who was already dying, sent the Bloody Baron to bring her daughter back, but when Helena refused to return, the Baron killed her in rage. Then, horrified by what he had done, he killed himself. That is why Helena becomes the Grey Lady, the ghost of Ravenclaw House, and the Baron becomes the blood-stained ghost of Slytherin. That backstory gives the diadem a trail of grief before Voldemort ever turns it into dark magic. A daughter steals it. A mother dies without recovering it. A rejected man murders the daughter. Then he dies by his own hand. For centuries, the diadem is lost. Students know the legend, but not the location. Ravenclaws speak about wit and wisdom, but the actual object connected to their founder is hidden outside Britain, forgotten in Albania. That is where Tom Riddle enters the story. While he is still connected to Hogwarts, Riddle learns from Helena Ravenclaw's ghost where the diadem was hidden. Riddle does not just collect objects by force. He knows how to extract secrets. He flatters, manipulates, and studies people until they give him what he wants. Helena had kept the secret for centuries, but Riddle managed to get it from her. He later retrieves the diadem from Albania and turns it into one of his Horcruxes. The exact murder used to create this Horcrux is not described in the same direct way as Myrtle Warren's death for the diary or Tom Riddle Sr.'s murder for the ring. But the requirement is still there. A Horcrux is made through murder. So the diadem's transformation into a soul container means another death sits behind it, even if the victim is not named in the main story. Then, Voldemort hides it in the one place that shows both his arrogance and his ignorance: the Room of Requirement. More specifically, he hides it in the Room of Hidden Things, the version of the room filled with generations of abandoned objects, contraband, broken furniture, old books, failed experiments, bottles, hats, and things students wanted to conceal. Voldemort believes he has discovered a secret place no one else understands. In reality, the room is full of evidence that countless students have used it before him. That mistake says a lot about him. He is brilliant, but he cannot imagine that other people might also find what he finds. He believes his discovery makes him unique, even while he is standing in a room overflowing with other people's secrets. Harry actually sees the diadem before he understands its importance. In Half-Blood Prince, when he hides the Half-Blood Prince's potions book, he marks the spot with a dusty old wig and a tarnished tiara placed on a bust. That tiara is the lost diadem of Ravenclaw. It is one of the greatest founder relics in magical history, and for a moment it is treated like junk in a storage room. By Deathly Hallows, Harry realizes what it is. During the Battle of Hogwarts, he returns to the Room of Requirement with Ron and Hermione to find it. Draco Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle follow them in. Crabbe casts Fiendfire, a cursed fire powerful enough to destroy a Horcrux, but far too dangerous for him to control. The flames become monstrous, taking the shape of beasts as they consume the room. The diadem is destroyed in that fire. That ending fits the object's entire history. It begins as a symbol of wisdom, is stolen through envy, hidden through shame, found through manipulation, corrupted through murder, buried among forgotten things, and finally destroyed by a curse cast recklessly by someone who cannot control it. Helena wanted it because she wanted to surpass her mother. Voldemort wanted it because he believed Hogwarts history belonged to him, and in the end, one of the most famous symbols of wisdom survives for centuries, only to be lost in a room full of things people thought they could hide forever. Slytherin's Locket. Slytherin's Locket is one of the few cursed objects in Harry Potter with a paper trail almost as ugly as the curse itself. It does not stay in one place. It moves through bloodlines, poverty, murder, theft, political corruption, and finally, a hunt across wartime Britain. By the time Harry, Ron, and Hermione are forced to wear it during Deathly Hallows, the object has already passed through some of the darkest corners of wizarding society. The locket originally belonged to Salazar Slytherin, one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts. That alone gives it historical weight. It is not just an expensive necklace, it is a founder relic tied to the same bloodline obsession that later consumes the Gaunt family. Marvolo Gaunt wears it as proof of descent from Slytherin, treating it less like an object and more like evidence that his ruined family is still superior to everyone around them. That is what makes Merope Gaunt's sale of the locket so important. After escaping the abuse of Marvolo and Morphin, and after Tom Riddle Sr. abandons her, Merope is pregnant, poor, and alone in London. She sells the locket to Caractacus Burke for only 10 galleons. Burke later admits that it was worth far more. That one transaction says a lot about how cursed object history often works. A family relic connected to one of Hogwarts' founders leaves the Gaunts not through a duel, but through desperation. Merope sells the last symbol of her bloodline because she needs to survive. The locket eventually reaches Hepzibah Smith, a wealthy collector descended from Helga Hufflepuff. She shows it to Tom Riddle while he is working at Borgin and Burke's. That scene is crucial because Riddle sees 2 founder objects together, Hufflepuff's cup and Slytherin's locket. Both become part of his Horcrux plan. Hepzibah dies soon afterward. From there, the locket becomes one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. Its hiding place is the cave by the sea, the same cave where young Tom Riddle once terrorized 2 other children from the orphanage. Voldemort protects the locket with layers of defense. A concealed entrance, a blood payment, an underground lake filled with inferi, and a basin of potion that causes extreme thirst and psychological torment. When Dumbledore and Harry reach the basin in Half-Blood Prince, Dumbledore drinks the potion, while Harry is forced to keep feeding it to him. Only afterward do they discover the locket is fake. The note inside is signed R.A.B., that leads to one of the most important hidden stories in the series, Regulus Arcturus Black. Regulus was Sirius Black's younger brother and a former Death Eater. After Voldemort used Kreacher to test the cave's protections and left him to die, Kreacher escaped through house elf magic and returned to Regulus. Regulus understood what the locket was, returned to the cave with Kreacher, switched the real Horcrux with a fake, and ordered Kreacher to destroy the real one before being dragged under by the Inferi. But Kreacher could not destroy it. It remains at number 12, Grimmauld Place, where Harry and the others briefly handle it without knowing what it is during Order of the Phoenix. Later, Mundungus Fletcher steals it while looting Sirius's old house. Dolores Umbridge then takes it from him, not because she understands its real nature, but because she wants it. By Deathly Hallows, she is wearing it at the Ministry during Muggle-born registration hearings, using it to support the lie that she is connected to the Selwyn pure blood family. A relic of Salazar Slytherin, carrying a piece of Voldemort's soul, hangs around the neck of a Ministry official helping persecute Muggle-borns. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione steal it from the Ministry, the locket's active curse becomes unavoidable. It worsens tension inside the group. It makes hunger, fear, jealousy, and exhaustion sharper. Ron is affected most severely, partly because the locket knows exactly where to press. His fear of being least loved, least needed, and replaceable beside Harry and Hermione. When Ron finally destroys it with the Sword of Gryffindor, the locket attacks him first. It opens and shows visions meant to humiliate him, especially images of Harry and Hermione speaking to his worst insecurities. Ron breaks through only after Harry calls him back to himself, and then he strikes it with the sword. The locket does not simply hang over the heart. It learns where the heart is weakest. Marvolo Gaunt's ring. Marvolo Gaunt's ring is not dangerous because of one curse. It is dangerous because too many histories are trapped inside the same object. When the ring first appears in the larger story, it is not presented as a grand magical treasure. It belongs to Marvolo Gaunt, the violent, impoverished descendant of Salazar Slytherin living in the Gaunt shack near Little Hangleton. Marvolo treats the ring as proof that his family still matters, even though the Gaunts have almost nothing left except their name, their bloodline obsession, and a few inherited relics they barely understand. The ring itself is described as ugly and heavy, with a black stone set into it. Marvolo shows it off proudly to Bob Ogden from the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, using it as proof of his ancestry. He believes the symbol on the stone proves connection to the Peverills, though he mainly uses it to support his family's pure blood superiority. The stone in the ring is the Resurrection Stone. That means the ring is not only connected to Slytherin's bloodline, it is connected to one of the 3 legendary Hallows from the tale of the 3 brothers. The Resurrection Stone is supposed to recall the dead in a shadow-like form, not truly restoring them to life, but bringing back something close enough to tempt the living. Before Voldemort even turns it into a Horcrux, the ring already carries dangerous emotional power. It is an object built around grief, longing, and the refusal to leave the dead alone. Then Tom Riddle claims it. After learning about his parentage, Riddle visits Little Hangleton and confronts Morphin Gaunt, his uncle. Morphin tells him about Tom Riddle Sr., the Muggle man who abandoned Merope Gaunt. Riddle then murders his father and grandparents in the Riddle house. He alters Morphin's memory, so Morphin believes he committed the murders himself. Then, Morphin is sent to Azkaban, where he later dies, while Riddle escapes with the ring. That is the murder tied to the ring's transformation. Voldemort turns Marvolo's ring into a Horcrux after killing the Riddles, hiding a fragment of his soul inside an object connected to his mother's magical ancestry. That choice reveals something very specific about him. He hated his Muggle father, but he wanted the magical bloodline that connected him to Slytherin. The ring let him erase the Riddle family through murder, while preserving the Gaunt side as proof of magical importance. The hiding place also matters. Voldemort conceals the ring in the Gaunt shack, the same miserable house where Merope had been abused and where Morphin lived in decay. He protects it with powerful curses, trusting both the secrecy of the location and the fact that few people would connect his immortality to a ruined family home. Unlike a vault or a famous school relic, the shack looks worthless. The object is hidden in the shame of his own origins. Dumbledore finds the ring before the events of Half-Blood Prince. And this is where the ring becomes more than a Horcrux. Dumbledore understands dark magic better than almost anyone alive. He knows Voldemort's methods, and he knows the ring may be trapped. He has the experience, caution, and intelligence that should have protected him. But the Resurrection Stone changes the situation. When Dumbledore sees the stone, he is not only looking at a Horcrux, he is looking at a chance to see Ariana and possibly his parents again. That is the ring's cruelest advantage. It does not catch Dumbledore because he is foolish. It catches him because he is grieving. For decades, Dumbledore carries guilt over Ariana's death, over his friendship with Gellert Grindelwald, and over the damage done to his own family. The Resurrection Stone touches that exact wound. In a moment of weakness, he puts the ring on. The curse activates immediately, blackening and destroying his hand. Snape is able to contain the curse, but not remove it completely. Dumbledore is left with roughly a year to live. That changes the final year of the war. Dumbledore's damaged hand is visible throughout Half-Blood Prince. It becomes one of the first signs that something is wrong with him physically. The curse also shapes the plan for his death. Since he is already dying, Dumbledore arranges with Snape that Snape will kill him when the time comes, sparing Draco Malfoy from fully completing Voldemort's mission and preserving Snape's position as a spy. So the ring does not only wound Dumbledore, it changes the strategy of the entire war against Voldemort. The Horcrux inside the ring is eventually destroyed with the Sword of Gryffindor, which had absorbed basilisk venom after Harry used it in the Chamber of Secrets. But even after the Horcrux is gone, the Resurrection Stone remains important. Dumbledore later hides it inside the golden snitch he leaves to Harry. When Harry walks into the Forbidden Forest to face Voldemort, he uses the stone to see James, Lily, Sirius, and Remus before accepting death. Most cursed objects attack whoever touches them. This one waited for the one person wise enough to recognize it, and still found the grief he could not resist. Tom Riddle's diary. Ginny Weasley does not find Tom Riddle's diary in a dark chamber, a cursed vault, or a hidden cabinet. She finds it among her school things. That is what makes the diary one of the most effective cursed objects in the entire Harry Potter series. It enters Hogwarts through the most ordinary route possible, a first-year student's belongings. In Chamber of Secrets, Lucius Malfoy secretly slips it into Ginny's cauldron at Flourish and Blotts after the confrontation between the Weasleys and the Malfoys. Arthur Weasley and Lucius fight in the shop. Students are buying books for the new school year. Gilderoy Lockhart is signing copies of Magical Me. And in the middle of all that noise, one of Voldemort's darkest objects is planted on an 11-year-old girl. The diary looks harmless because it is blank. That is the first trick. It does not announce itself as a dark artifact. It does not glow, scream, or attack. It invites use by being empty. For a lonely first-year student, that matters. Ginny is the youngest Weasley, the only girl among 7 children, and she enters Hogwarts already overwhelmed by Harry Potter's presence, her family's financial situation, and the pressure of being in a famous school. The diary gives her something private, and that is where the curse begins to work. When Ginny writes in the diary, Tom Riddle writes back. Not as Voldemort, not as a monster, but as a sympathetic 16-year-old boy from the past. That disguise is important because the diary does not control Ginny by force at first. It earns access through conversation. It listens to her fears, her embarrassment, her loneliness, and her secrets. Then, as she pours more of herself into it, the memory inside the diary grows stronger. Tom Riddle's diary is not simply an enchanted book with a harmful spell attached. It is Voldemort's first Horcrux, created after the murder of Myrtle Warren in 1943. That means the object contains a fragment of Riddle's soul, preserved from when he was still a student at Hogwarts. The diary is a cursed object, a soul container, and a weapon designed to reopen the Chamber of Secrets. By the 1992 to 1993 school year, it succeeded. Ginny begins losing time. She wakes up without knowing where she has been or what she has done. She kills roosters because their crowing is fatal to a basilisk. She writes messages on the walls. She opens the chamber and releases the monster through the school's plumbing. Mrs. Norris is petrified first, then Colin Creevey, then Justin Finch Fletchley and nearly headless Nick. Later, Hermione Granger and Penelope Clearwater are attacked after using a mirror to avoid direct eye contact. The diary turns Ginny into the mechanism of the curse while hiding the real author behind her. That is why the object is so disturbing. It does not only endanger victims in the corridors, It makes a child participate in the danger without understanding she is being used. Riddle also uses the diary to manipulate Harry. When Harry finds it, the diary shows him a memory from 50 years earlier. He sees Tom Riddle accusing Hagrid and exposing Aragog, the young Acromantula hidden inside the school. The memory is not completely false, but it is arranged to mislead. Riddle presents himself as the responsible student who helped stop the attacks, while Hagrid appears guilty and reckless. The diary does not need to invent everything. It only needs to show Harry the right pieces in the wrong order. That makes it more dangerous than a simple lie, as it weaponizes memory. The final confrontation in the chamber reveals the full purpose of the object. Ginny is dying on the floor as Riddle becomes more solid. He explains that the more Ginny poured into the diary, the stronger he became, until he could pour a little of his soul back into her. His goal is not only to kill Muggleborns through the basilisk, it is to restore himself by draining a living girl. That is cursed object horror at its most personal. Harry destroys it with a basilisk fang, stabbing the diary and releasing the ink-like blood from its pages. Only then does Riddle vanish and Ginny wake up. At the time, Harry does not fully understand what he has destroyed. He only knows the diary was controlling Ginny. Years later, Dumbledore explains the deeper truth. It was not just a memory, it was one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, one of the few cursed objects in the series that can talk back, deceive, possess, rewrite suspicion, reopen an ancient threat, and nearly resurrect its creator. Horcruxes as cursed objects, and we are now down to the final and the most cursed object in Harry Potter lore, Horcruxes. A Horcrux is not simply a cursed object. It is what happens when a cursed object becomes a hiding place for a mutilated soul. That is why Horcruxes take the final spot. Every object before this can harm, trap, poison, transport, torture, or manipulate. But a Horcrux is different because the curse is not only placed on the object is transformed into a container for the result of murder. The idea of Horcruxes is older than Voldemort. Dark magical history connects the first known Horcrux to Herpo the Foul, an ancient Greek dark wizard also credited with breeding the first basilisk. That already places Horcrux making in one of the oldest and foulest branches of magic. It is not a school-level curse, not a common dark charm, and not the kind of thing most witches and wizards even want to discuss. The subject is so dangerous that Hogwarts library books mentioning it are restricted, and Dumbledore later removes the most explicit material from the library. The process itself explains why. A Horcrux requires the soul to be split, and the act that splits it is murder. The killing damages the murderer's soul, and through dark magic, one torn fragment can be sealed inside an object or living container. That fragment then anchors the creator to life. If the body is destroyed, the person cannot fully die, while the Horcrux remains intact. That means the object is not just a backup plan, it is a preserved wound. Tom Riddle's conversation with Horace Slughorn is the key moment because it shows how early and how deliberately Voldemort thinks about this. Riddle does not merely ask what a Horcrux is, he asks about making more than one. Slughorn is visibly unsettled because even discussing one Horcrux is already horrifying. Riddle is thinking about multiple soul fragments before he has even become Lord Voldemort in the full public sense. The number 7 becomes part of his design. He wants his soul divided into 7 parts because 7 is considered the most powerfully magical number. Voldemort treats the soul like something that can be arranged, counted, and optimized. He turns immortality into a project with symbolic structure. This is also why Horcruxes are the deepest form of cursed object lore in Harry Potter. A Horcrux changes the moral meaning of the object itself. It makes the object part of a murder, and the container becomes evidence that someone died so the maker could continue existing. Additionally, Horcruxes do not behave like ordinary storage. They can defend themselves, resist destruction, and affect the people near them. They carry a piece of a soul that has been violently separated from the whole. Destroying one is also not as simple as breaking it. The container has to be damaged beyond magical repair. That is why basilisk venom matters. It is one of the rare substances destructive enough to kill a Horcrux. The Sword of Gryffindor becomes capable of doing the same because it absorbs what strengthens it, including basilisk venom after Harry uses it in the Chamber of Secrets. Fiendfire is another force powerful enough to destroy one, but it is so dangerous that even the caster can lose control of it. The living Horcruxes make the idea even worse. Nagini is not an object in the usual sense, but Voldemort turns her into one of his soul containers. That makes the curse mobile, guarded, and capable of killing. Harry is the accidental version, created when Voldemort's killing curse rebounds at Godric's Hollow on October 31st, 1981. A fragment of Voldemort's already unstable soul attaches itself to the only living thing in the room. So the Horcrux concept reaches its most disturbing point when the boundary between object and person collapses. But Harry has to walk into the Forbidden Forest and allow Voldemort to strike him, so the fragment inside him can be removed. A Horcrux is not just something dark magic touches. It is dark magic turned into a hiding place for the part of a person that should never have been torn apart. That is why cursed objects in Harry Potter feel different from ordinary dark magic. A cursed object can remain broken inside Hogwarts until someone repairs it. It can pass through hands as a necklace, a cup, a ring, a locket, or a diary before anyone understands what it really is. That patience is what makes them so dangerous. They turn trust into a weakness. These objects do not always look monstrous. Some look valuable, some look old, some look useful, and some look harmless enough to keep. But the lore proves that the object is never just an object once dark magic is hidden inside it. It becomes evidence of the person who cursed it, the victim who suffered from it, and the world that allowed it to survive long enough to hurt someone else. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the lore of Harry Potter's most cursed objects, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more Wizarding World lore, and comment below. Which cursed object do you think was the most disturbing?